I saw an open field over which the Confederates had made repeated charges the day before, so covered with dead that it would have been possible to walk across in any direction, stepping on dead bodies without a foot touching the ground. Major General Ulysses S. Grant, Shiloh. The morning of April 7th, things were significantly about to change at the Battle of Shiloh. Throughout the evening, Ulysses S. Grant was bolstering his positions. His left flank was anchored on the Tennessee River by the fresh troops of General Bull Nelson's division. To his right, the Union center was made up of the remnants of General Herbert and McClernand's divisions, and holding the right was William T. Sherman's division, or at least what remained of it. But in the night, Lew Wallace's division had made its way south from Crump's Landing, approaching General Sherman's right flank to bolster his tattered division. But most importantly, General Don Carlos Buell and the rest of the Army of Ohio had arrived on the eastern banks of the Tennessee River, across from Pittsburgh Landing, giving Grant much-needed reinforcements. On the Confederate side of the field, Beauregard and the Army of Mississippi was still holding their positions in the sacked Federal camp. Unaware of the bolstered Federal force, he still believed he would be mopping up the remnants of the Army of Tennessee. Not that he would be facing the full strength of two armies. The southern position was made up with General Bragg anchored at Glover Field on the left. The rebel center was then followed with General Polk and former U.S. Vice President General Breckinridge's corps, and General Hardee anchoring the right flank on the Tennessee River. At 5 o'clock a.m., Grant directed Buell to return the favor of the day before and commence his attack. With 3 divisions of McCook, Crittenden, and Wood, Buell smashed into Breckinridge and Hardee's fronts, taking the Southerners by complete surprise. Grant also directed his own divisions forward, especially with Lew Wallace's division now in position to strike the Confederate right and overwhelm the position. Sherman and McClernand hit Bragg and Polk's position, while Herbert and Bull Nelson supported Buell's attack, striking into Breckinridge's corps. By 11 a.m., the Confederate line was being pushed back through the captured camps, trying to stop the reorganized Northerners, but still being pushed back, especially with all the fresh Federal troops pouring in. By the afternoon, the new Confederate line was positioned with Bragg now anchored at the Ben Howell Field and crossroads of the Hamburg-Purdy Road, Polk and Breckinridge still in the center with Hardee's corps being tattered by the mass of Federal troops. Beauregard was trying to stabilize his positions as Johnson's plan was falling apart. The stopping the assaults the day before had given the Federal forces time to reorganize and counterattack. He was hoping for the arrival of 20,000 reinforcements from General Earl Van Dorn, but he was discovering that the troops were too far away. By mid-afternoon, Beauregard had to admit the inevitable and begin to withdraw back into Mississippi. The great Confederate victory he had reported at Richmond was becoming a humiliating defeat. General Breckinridge's corps took up positions blocking the Corinth Road as the rest of the Army of the Mississippi began to flee back into Mississippi, while the Army of the Ohio and Tennessee was still pursuing. By nightfall, though, the gunfire had ended, and the Confederate Army was withdrawing back to Corinth. Grant and Buell opted not to pursue the Confederates and instead pull back, first due to the intense fighting, then also the rainstorm that hit. Grant and Buell would be criticized for this action, calling it the final Federal blunder of the battle. The next day on April 8th, Sherman and Wood advanced, engaging with Breckinridge's corps that would subsequently end in a Federal victory, and the rest of the Confederate Army would withdraw into Mississippi. The Battle of Shiloh would end with over 23,000 casualties, though a victory, the casualty list in the North, shook the public with horror. Over 2 days, 1,728 men in the Federal Army had been killed in action, 8,408 wounded, and 2,885 missing. Though not the first battle, this fight will set the stage for the further carnage of the war. Lew Wallace will be openly criticized for his delay on April 6th, and the commander of all Western forces, Henry Halleck, will make Wallace the scapegoat for his delay actions. Grant and Buell would be called butchers for the carnage of the 2 days, and question why the Army of Tennessee was not prepared for the assault, many stating that Grant was possibly drunk before the battle, and that he was incompetent to command. Grant will be removed from field command on April 11th when Henry Halleck arrived with his reinforcements, bolstering his combined command to 120,000 men. He would reinstate Grant 3 months later to command the Army of Tennessee, following the fall of Corinth. Beauregard will make an unapproved leave of absence following the fall of Corinth, which Jefferson Davis will never forgive, specifically because he blamed Beauregard's action for the defeat at Shiloh, and then his surrender of Corinth for the entire fall of the northern Mississippi Valley. The Battle of Pittsburgh Landing, or as it's known today, the Battle of Shiloh, is remembered as one of the bloodiest battles in the history of the United States. But it also set the tone for the rest of the war, especially for 5 months later at the Battle of Antietam, where casualties will almost exactly mirror those of Shiloh, but only in 1 day, it becoming known as the bloodiest day in American history.